Hi, my name is John Cunningham. I want to spend the next couple of minutes telling you about a truly amazing and wonderful new provision of the Internal Revenue Code. I joke with my friends and say, if there's any provision in the Internal Revenue Code which is actually sexy, it's 199A. That's what I want to talk about for a few minutes now. The section was enacted effective January 1st, 2018. So it's only been around for 13 months. Basically what it does is it provides deductions of up to 20%, and I think you can get more than 20%, deductions from your business, your share of the business income of pass-through businesses that you own. So that, let's say you are a sole shareholder of a state law business corporation, taxable as an S corp, and the net business income after all expenses of that corporation is $100,000. You can get a deduction of up to 20% of that, a $20,000 deduction, which could save you several $1,000s in your federal income tax. The more your net business income, the more will be your deduction, obviously. So that's what it basically does. It gives you a deduction. What do you have to do for that deduction? You don't have to do anything except be a pass-through business. But if your business happens to be, let's say, a state law business corporation that's taxable as a C corporation under the 300s of the Internal Revenue Code, all you do is change from being a C corporation to something else, and then you can get the deduction. So really, there's about 50 million American business owners who can qualify for this deduction. It's simply amazing. Now, you may be asking, why would Congress give this hugely generous deduction to small business owners? Because those will be the main beneficiaries. The reason is that, as you may know, effective in 2018, Congress reduced the top federal C corporation rate, the rate paid by large corporations, from 35% down to 21%. But until then, small businesses had always had a roughly 10% federal income tax rate advantage over C corporations, and that went away with the lowering of the C corp rate. Congress enacted 199A to restore that federal income tax parity between C corporations and the owners of smaller businesses. So that's the reason that the section exists. Now, one of the main things you have to understand about the section is that it is a very difficult section. Many tax professionals view it as one of the most complex and difficult provisions of the entire Tax Act of 2017 in which it was enacted, if not the entire Internal Revenue Code. Section 199A itself is about 4,000 words long, 9 subsections, written in dense taxese. Really a struggle to understand. Sometimes they introduce a concept in subsection B and they don't define it until subsection G or H. So it's very difficult to understand. You have to spend many, many hours in order to master that section. So that's the beginning of the difficulty. But in addition, on January 18, 2019, the Internal Revenue Service and the Treasury Department issued 247 pages of final regulations, roughly 147 pages of comments and responses to comments, and 100 pages of new provisions, including provisions for which there's not a hint in the section itself. So it's very difficult from the viewpoint of federal tax provisions, but that's only the beginning of the difficulty of the section, because out of the 50 million business owners who are eligible for these deductions, probably 10 million need either significant or major restructuring to maximize their deductions. And figuring out what you do to whether you can maximize them, how you maximize them, and then implementing the restructuring necessary for the maximization is a whole world unto itself. I figured that the only way I would understand this section was to write a book about it. So I did. I've written a book about LLCs, but I figured there was a need for a book about 199A, and I only really understand complex things like this if I write about them. So I wrote the book, and my publisher, Wolters Kluwer, has published it. Right now it exists as a online book on a website called Cheetah, owned by Wolters Kluwer. And if you want to learn something about the book online, just go to Google and input the title of the book. The title is Maximizing Pass-Through Deductions Under New Internal Revenue Code, Section 199A, a 199A Practice Manual. I know that's a long title, but let me give it to you again one more time quickly. Maximizing pass-through deductions under new Internal Revenue Code, Section 199A, a Section 199A Practice Manual. So that's the book. Now, the terms themselves of the statute provide that the statute will expire at the end of 2025. But I don't think it will because, well, it's a complex topic, but I don't think it will. And the main reason is there's 50 million beneficiaries of this statute. And by the way, not only individuals, but S corporations, partnerships, trusts, and estates can be owners of the pass-through businesses that get these deductions. There's 50 million of these people and entities. And I think Congress is going to have to extend indefinitely the section, or it's going to have 50 million enemies. And anyway, as I mentioned, it's a matter of fairness vis-a-vis C corporations. That's another major reason why I think the extension will happen. So there's only one book out there by a major publisher. It happens to be my book, the one I just described. If you want to learn more about the section, you can look into that book and access it online after you buy it, of course. Or if you'd like to talk more about 199A, just give me a call. I'd welcome your call. Thank you very much.